So, I'm gonna go out on a whim and say this will be the way I die. So for a while I've been predicting things, I've been learning critical thinking and learning more about morality, learning about ethics and all that sort of stuff. It's been a long process. It hasn't been easy either because I've had to come to terms with different things. I have to open my mind, which can be a hard thing to do. I've had to be honest and just speak truth, really. Just find truth and speak it. So there's a really hot scene happening there. Two gay cats, it looks like. Probably stop watching that. Gonna get too distracted. Anyway, that's kind of funny. Speak truth, yeah. Okay. So, for a while I've been doing this, and it's led to some mental health issues, in all honesty. But for the effect that it has in terms of clarity and just being absolved from consequences, it does help. So it does sort of outweigh the bigger problem from that. But it goes without saying that I just hate being the first to notice these things. Not just about the world in general, but even our own sphere of like hobbies and interests. Of course, this ranges from things like politics to something even like poor quality games, even TV. And you can typically see these problems from a mile away, especially when you know everything that I know anyway about morality and even like a political sense. You can figure this out. You can see the problems that will come of it. You know, there's a pretty much like a domino effect with a lot of the issues. When you hire someone, or vote in someone, I mean, who stands with oppression, who literally forces it on everyone, you can expect everyone else's rights will just disappear as well. There's an entire domino effect. One day they're coming after, I don't know, DEI and LGBTQ plus people. The next they're going after immigrants and women and disabled, and no doubt eventually working class people, people in poverty, homeless, and then at some point the middle class, because let's be honest, they don't give a shit about anyone. Just the fact that they have, what, like 7-digit numbers in their bank account or more. It's real scummy stuff. And that's why I just hate being the first to notice, because it always feels like I'm alone in this. No matter how many communities I surround myself with, even just in a human rights sense, everyone just seems to be so far behind. I notice these problems from a mile away, and I don't even need a study to even figure this out. So, I don't really know what else to say on that. As if it couldn't be bad enough when my escapisms are impacted by very real political issues, which definitely do impact it down the line, just by the way, so gamers, if you're listening, listen closely. Games being completely corrupt by greedy billionaires, CEOs, and terrible game managers even, I should say. It's what's destroying the industry as a whole. So the escapisms around that, even TV to an extent too, they just end up being completely squandered. Like there's nothing to them. It's either compromised with some bits to it, or it's just completely terrible. It's quite rare that you find anything good these days. And it really shows when you see that independent companies are actually able to do something more successful. You see indie games are very popular. You can also see that TV shows, which otherwise wouldn't have seen the light of day, when they're often like not as well viewed, well as popular, I mean, they can end up being really good. You just don't realise it. I've had a few shows like that, I think. Yeah, when it comes to those sort of things, it's like oh, they really squandered. Like, have you ever heard of Dead End Paranormal Park on Netflix? Has one of the best LGBTQ plus representations and autism representations I've seen. And I say this having watched certain Disney shows, and I kind of did watch Big Bang Theory back in the day. That was, yeah, cringy. But it's even better than some other shows. It's not perfect, sure. It's one of those smaller shows where you can't actually really like it because it just does so many things right. And it doesn't really matter whether the story is good or bad. The characters are just amazing. And there's smaller games like Monument Valley, which is one game I've always supported because it's just an incredible puzzle game. And you rarely see games like that. There are even games that are not necessarily small but don't have the player base that it deserves. Like Deep Rock Galactic, for example. It's absolutely incredible. I still love this game and I still play it to this day because it is updated. It's a live service done right. And there certainly has been like single player games that I've really enjoyed. Like DMC Devil May Cry, trying to look, Journey to the Savage Planet is pretty good. Other one's Paradise Killer, that was pretty good too. It just goes to show that if you don't give these games a chance, you don't really experience greatness. But the part where this gets you is when you realise that games are so compromised. I'm just reminded of Sonic Frontiers here. A game that I played 3 years ago when it first released. I reviewed it negatively, one person found my review helpful, great. I know how many people put a Jester on it. One person found it funny, okay. Even though it was a small review, so I don't know what happened there. Jesus, like, I don't know how anyone could even rate this higher than 40%. It's not a game that I consider as according to Steam like 90% positive. Like, it's garbage. It's pure garbage. The gameplay aspect was fine, but graphically it had so many embarrassing moments in the open world and just floating things in the air. The soundtrack was okay, but not amazing. Also, I love the metalcore parts. Whenever I look back at this, I realise that these games are just so compromised by just laziness and complete inability to make these fucking games. Like, it's so embarrassing looking back on it. So it's one of those games I sort of wish I didn't play in the end. Yeah, that's probably not the best example, I think. If you look at a game franchise I liked, Saints Row for example, I didn't mind some of the later games. I think they're just okay. But then they released the reboot and it was absolute garbage. Completely forgot what they were about. And they paid the consequence for that. So, and the studio was shut down. This is what I mean. I hate being the first to notice. I noticed when Saints Row first released that reboot, it was bad. And even going further back, and it was the first trailer for that, I mean. But even going back further from a different game, Just Cause 4. I remember when I pre-ordered that, and I remember when I refunded it. Because I saw a bunch of trailers which seemed convincing, but then they released something like 10 things you might have missed in Just Cause 4 trailer on their own channel. So like anti-fan base or something because they're doing that, and it's not even like a fan doing it, I don't think. So that was already suspicious. And then they started doing vlogs, which is fine and innocent, but then you realise it's sort of a promotion for the game. Oh. Okay, now something's not right here. And that just made me realise when they kept doing videos similar to the 10 things you might have missed, I just thought, actually, you know what, it's not worth it. Why the fuck pre-order this? They're also getting desperate. And what happens? It ends up being one of the worst Just Cause games released. If we go onto Steam, double check. Better to double check this. Just Cause 4. Reloaded. Why is it reloaded? Don't know why you want it reloaded. That's weird. Okay, that's the pack. What the fuck, Steam? Okay, mixed reviews, yeah. Good enough. It's at like 62% overall. But yeah, it just didn't seem right as a game. Even though the weather system looked fun, it's just scummy, and even looking at the additions here that you have, like, you still got the usual shit, but it just, I don't know, it run me all the wrong way either way. So I just didn't bother. Yeah, people who didn't like it. It's kind of crazy how it basically fallen from a decent game like Just Cause 3 to, well, that. And I think even further back, like, there were warning signs about other games as well. I remember when Total Biscuit reviews Watch Dogs, for example. That was interesting because I bought the game after that, knowing that it might not work, and I didn't know it didn't work. And that really started all this, I think. That's really the sign that these games were completely unfinished and imperfect. They just didn't run properly, and the developers just didn't seem to care. And now let's skip to the present, where Pokemon Legends EA has released, and people are realising the same thing. You know, like, what the fuck gives there? These games are being absolutely shut on because of greed, because of a tight schedule, when in reality you have the money to spend to make these games as good as they can be, release them to multiple platforms, and still earn a profit. But no, they're going the monopolistic route. They're only releasing on Nintendo. They're only making it to a certain degree of quality, but not enough. And it's actually made me think, oh yeah, I'm gonna buy this now. But no, it's not happened. It hasn't happened since, in my opinion, Pokemon Quest. So the Switch one. I just seem to stop giving a shit there. It's quite obvious they're going the mobile route in some games. But they're not even releasing it for mobile, so what gives? I seriously do not understand this shit. And I'm still even technically waiting for a Pokemon game where it's like Pokemon Showdown, but with all your Pokemon basically from other games. So again, it just doesn't make any sense. Yeah, why am I always the first to notice this? I said Pokemon Legends EA doesn't look complete. The parts of it, of the gameplay weren't obvious, the textures are awful, the geometry is awful, like, it's really bad. I'm looking at it now on the other screen. There's so many things wrong with it. The animation's janky, no voice acting. Post-processing isn't very good, from what I could tell. I don't even see bloom on the buildings, I see it on the lampposts, but that's it. The lens flare is really bad, it seems to be like 2 FPS or something, whenever you see that. Yeah, it's definitely not there. I did see reflections on it earlier, so I don't know what that's about. Like, why the hell did they put reflections on it? It's a bit of an odd choice, given the resources are probably better put into the geometry. I don't know. Yeah, this sort of goes without saying though. Why is it everything that I notice to begin with then get completely, I don't know the term, roasted or criticised? I don't know, but I get completely criticised for calling this out. And then suddenly when these things come out and they end up doing a bad thing, suddenly it's like, oh, okay, we agree with you now. Are you fucking kidding me? I remember when Cyberpunk 2077 had that E3 demo, and somehow it already got Game of the Year before it even released. That was a big warning sign, and people didn't pick up on that. Instead, of like, okay, it's a bit odd, but sure, it does seem to be Game of the Year. Like, people just blindly followed it. And there's me like thinking, how can you say that? It's not even released. And then I got called an idiot because I somehow, my opinion on this about thinking that a game that wasn't released couldn't be Game of the Year is somehow wrong because they think it is Game of the Year. But that's the world we live in, where people just choose ignorance over anything else to justify something. And when the E3 demo showed actually that there were glitchy graphics and people walking through each other, you walk through people itself, like, it was just bad. And the game actually released in a really buggy state, and then it's like, oh, okay. Then people sided with me. It's like, okay, I warned you. It's so ridiculous, and there's even things like AI as well that I have to bring up. I warned about this at the moment that first AI generator came out. What was it called? Oh god, I can't remember, but it's like the goofy one which didn't properly generate anything because of a bug in its code. And I said, this is a danger to artists and just creativity in general. It could even become a danger to life. Then the next year, it improved, and suddenly we started to see AI generated people and voices. Again, what did I say? It's not me speaking from like I'm the only thing of authority here. It's actually something I've noticed, that I take an issue with, and I've discussed. And again, people are saying like you can't criticise it, and they're saying it's going to happen eventually. Well, what about now? Because now we're seeing even more destruction from this. We're seeing data centres completely pollute poor neighbourhoods because of having to run this AI shit. We're seeing a bunch of just nonsense from the AI generation itself because it doesn't look great either. That's probably a good thing at this point, but it's also just almost uncanny in other areas. You're seeing people generate real life videos, seemingly, and even voices. So it's just getting far, far worse. And there's even that talk about making a murder AI. And I called for regulation for this, by the way, over 3 years ago. I called for this to be regulated. And now we're seeing people making AI that murders people. And I know something I called out before that as well, which is also pretty important to why it's not regulated. Old politicians. And yeah, you can call me ageist all you want, but I'm not going to trust someone with no knowledge and understanding on technology to decide the laws for, again, technology. It makes no fucking sense. So get all these people off the fucking political leaderships and like places, I don't know what you call it, employment, like anything like that. And start getting people who are young and understanding of the world they live in, and the country for that matter. It's absolutely absurd. And I don't even know how you even get a paedophile into presidency. That makes no fucking sense. So again, I don't know what this world is coming to, but I hate being the first to notice. As usual. It just seems so common now that I'm genuinely not sure if people actually care or if they actually are real. I sort of talk about this in my podcast a bit. Talk about solipsism basically, and how the fact that people don't act soon enough makes everything feel less important, like less devastating, like it almost feels like it's not real. Like nobody's actually conscious and you're the only one that actually exists. It's going to drive people crazy, and it's possibly going to drive me crazy as well. So I don't know. It's hard to say. At this point, I'm only along for the ride, not because I want to, but just out of necessity. It's a frustrating thing about existence. I don't really know why you're here, or what you're even here for. Then I try to make things better, and people just tell me to fuck off. Okay, yeah, right in that filth. And welcome to hell. You brought it on yourself. You found the flame. That's your problem at this point. So let's also be on a warning. If you don't listen to people's warnings, if you don't listen to their understanding of a given topic, you'll fall into those traps, you'll fall into the flames, and you'll be consumed by them. And the rational people will also take a stand, and they'll leave a distance between them and the flames themselves, and prepare even. Again, I warn people, and I hate being the first to notice.